Hello, Bucknutters. Welcome to the Morning Five here on March 17th, 2014. I am Dave Biddle. The NCAA Tournament bracket was released yesterday. Ohio State receives the number 6 seed in the South region. They will take on 11th seeded Dayton on Thursday at 12:15. Really the first game of the tournament, not including the play-in games. Buckeyes playing again at 12:15 p.m. on Thursday against the University of Dayton. If the Buckeyes win, they would likely play third-seeded Syracuse on Saturday, not all that far from Syracuse's campus. The Orange have to beat a solid Western Michigan team on Thursday first. Western Michigan just ran through the MAC tournament. You have to be a good team to win that MAC tournament, so Western Michigan is no joke, but you have to think Syracuse is going to take care of business, probably an hour up the road from their campus against Western Michigan. And we'll see about Ohio State and Dayton. Dayton's a tough team. Dayton knows Ohio State well. Their head coach, Archie Miller, spent a year on Thad Matta's staff as an assistant coach. Jordan Seibert, of course, was part of that great recruiting class with Jared Sullinger and Aaron Kraft and Deshaun Thomas and Lenzel Smith and all those guys. Jordan Seibert is UD's leading scorer. He shoots very well from three-point range. The reason he transfers is because he was beaten out for a starting job by Lenzel Smith a couple years ago. But Jordan Seibert's doing well at Dayton. They have some other players as well. Dayton's a very deep team. So we'll see if Ohio State can take care of business. I think it'll be a close game against the Flyers, but I do think Ohio State will win. Full disclosure, we're going to have a lot of people that work for Bucknuts are going to be torn. Our very own Dan Rubin is a University of Dayton graduate, so he's going to be torn Thursday afternoon. But it's going to be a good game. It's going to be a lot of fun. I like how the selection committee sets up these fun matchups, kind of like Michigan and Ohio 2 years ago. With Michigan not liking to refer to Ohio State as Ohio State, they like to say Ohio. Well, the NCAA Selection Committee put Michigan against the real Ohio 2 years ago in the first round. And, of course, John Gross and the Bobcats upset Michigan, so that was good times.
O-H-I-O.
So let's see, if Ohio State and Syracuse do meet up, it's a tough matchup for Ohio State due to Syracuse's 2-3 zone and the fact that they'd be playing in Buffalo, of course. Now, of course, Ohio State was able to beat Syracuse 2 years ago in the NCAA Tournament in the Elite Eight. So they were able to get some damage done against that vaunted 2-3 matchup zone. But that Buckeye squad had a couple guys like Jared Sullinger and Deshaun Thomas that were good scorers. This Buckeye team struggles mightily to score, and that's putting it mildly. So my prediction is Ohio State will beat Dayton and then lose to Syracuse. I would love to see the Sweet 16 streak continue. They have the longest Sweet 16 streak in the country at 4 years, but I think it will be snapped this year. I think they'll win one and then lose one. Switching gears,
O-H-I-O.
Ohio State resumes spring football practice tomorrow. Practice is closed, but we are interviewing Urban Meyer afterward, so look for a story plus video of Meyer's comments on the site Tuesday night. Then Thursday's practice is open to the media, so we'll have a practice report on the site for subscribers. We're also going to interview Chris Ash and Stan Drayton after practice. So look for stories on Chris Ash and Stan Drayton. We'll talk about Chris Ash's new role. We'll talk about the safeties. We'll talk about Stan Drayton and the running backs. So plenty of football on the site this week for our subscribers. If you're not a subscriber, try our 7-day free trial. Moving on,
O-H-I-O.
we're going to bring in our Alex Gleitman to talk some football recruiting. Alex, the Buckeyes received bad news yesterday. Tight end Chris Clark, the number 3 tight end in the country, according to the 24/7 Sports Composite, picked North Carolina. Your reaction?
Yeah, it was certainly shocking, and Bill Karalik has a item in his What I Am Hearing Today on Clark, as well as we'll have a boarding house item, giving you a little bit more insight into that situation. I think Bucknuts was kind of all over Chris Clark, throughout this process. Both Bill and I were very close to him, and we were both very shocked, as was Steve Wiltfong, and was the Ohio State staff. This was really shocking. Chris had been on a couple of visits, including Penn State on Friday or Saturday, actually, and following that visit, it seemed like it was Penn State and Ohio State for his services. Actually, Chris was kind of talking to me as if next weekend's visits to Ohio State and Michigan, he was hoping that would kind of be the end-all, be-all. He was hoping that almost really that Ohio State, a place that he kind of loved and he looked up to with Urban Meyer and Tim Hinton, his primary recruiter, he was hoping that one way or another that visit would kind of seal the deal for him, whether it be for the Buckeyes or for Penn State. But he went down to North Carolina, took a visit, was very close with tight ends coach and assistant head coach Seth Luttrell, who came over from Indiana. They did a great job on him. Larry Fedora, tremendous job recruiting him this weekend, and he really just fell in love with the place. And in his heart down there, he just felt that was the place he needed to be. That was a place he felt that could be his home away from home the next 3 to 5 years. And he committed to the Tar Heels, leaving the Buckeyes to move on to their next targets.
And Alex, real quick, a couple of things. Tell the listeners about a boarding house item we're going to have on Chris Clark later today. Give him a little bit of tease there. And another thing, do you think the fact that Ohio State hasn't thrown to the tight end very much the first 2 years of the Urban Meyer era is contributing to this, losing Chris Clark, losing Mike Gesicki last year? Or do you think that's just a coincidence?
Yeah, as far as the boarding house goes, I think, between Bill and I, we have a lot of good information, and we just wanted to provide you guys with all the information you need to know about what went into Clark's decision, kind of the back roads of where we were at in our thinking with Chris Clark and where maybe the Ohio State staff was at. So definitely look forward to that. That's going to be a good point in the house today. But when it comes to tight end recruiting, you have to think the tight end use has to factor into things a little bit. I think it's not all Urban Meyer's fault. I think if he had the type of athletes that he wanted at the position, that maybe things would be a little different in terms of how much they use the tight end. If Braxton Miller is a little further along in terms of getting through his reads and distributing the ball properly, I think maybe the tight end would have a few more catches. So not all on Urban Meyer, and you have to kind of look at Jeff Hireman's season last year. He actually had a pretty nice season overall, especially when you look at tight ends at Ohio State, over the last decade. So there's definitely improvements in that area. I think they have plans on how they want to use the tight end. Whether Marcus Ball can stay out of trouble or not in the next couple of years, that will tell a lot. But I think they want to bring in a couple of elite athletes at tight end so that they can use them. So right now they're trying to sell players on what their plan is to use the tight end. But as you said, right now they don't really have the track record, and I'm sure some schools are using that against them.
Thank you, Alex, and thank you to everybody for joining us here on the Bucknuts Morning 7, also known as the Bucknuts Morning 5. Hope everybody has a great St. Patrick's Day.